Let's reset because this is actually, we're going to talk about our boy Tim Gurner here. Now, David, can you just set the table? I had not known a little bit of the Gurner backstory. This isn't the
Mhm.
first time he's gotten our attention. Where might people know Tim Gurner from before?
So, in addition to running a lot of ostentatious and frankly ridiculous private development firms, which we'll get to in just a minute, this is also the guy who says the reason that you don't own a home, the reason that you don't have safety and security is because you've been eating too much avocado toast. So, really, a gentleman who has his pulse on the finger of the global economy.
The literal meme of absurdly individualistic and let them eat cake, sort of like, how dare you, from a guy who's a parasite again, like
Mhm.
talking about tradies. I assume he means tradespeople, the people who actually build
It's
these
like an
homes.
Australian, yeah.
Yeah, these people who actually build the things that he owns far too much of, who actually put them into the ground and stand them up for decades. They take too much is very rich. But let's just take another run at that for folks. Here is him
Mhm.
at the Property Summit talking about tradies.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there is a...
Now he's saying this, and as we said, like, I think he himself is a parasite, but that doesn't mean he isn't vocalizing the actual policy of the United States, say the Federal Reserve Bank,
Mhm.
with regards to,
No,
like, go ahead, David. Yeah, you know
No, I
better
mean, I
than
just want to like get into this, and there's a little bit more in the clip that we're going to play in a second. But I just want to say that this is one of those things because it's certainly struck a chord with a lot of people because it is so egregious. I mean, this is the way that people like that think about you, right? That like if you are somebody who's demanding more, somebody who's not accepting low wages, bad working conditions, etc., you are a parasite, lazy, dangerous, and you need to be reminded of your place. And thankfully this is something that struck a chord with a lot of people, but it's always interesting to see how this gets sort of filtered through everyone's different ideology, right? And one of the things that people have been trying to defend actually has been the Federal Reserve policy, saying that like, oh, he's wrong about the Federal Reserve. No, we have Powell and the folks in the Federal Reserve saying that they want to raise interest rates so that there is exactly this happening. That is not a
yes.
conspiracy theory. That is straight up stuff that they have said because they believe the Federal Reserve's policy, and other people who've been advising them, supporting them, etc., have been arguing that the reason that there is inflation is not because of greedy corporations charging too much money, which, by the way, that's what's happening. It's because, people have too much money in their pocket. And so we need to take money out of their pocket by making the economy suffer. So, yeah, anyways, when he's saying that, no, Matt, you're 100% right. He is
Yeah.
actually expressing less articulately and more vulgarly, but the official policy of the United States Federal Reserve.
Exactly. And Lawrence Summers does like a sort of a inside outside game he plays, but he's got Joe Biden's number, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
talk.
Let's
been a
yeah.
systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
Arrogance, interesting piece of word. I want to just talk about arrogance for a second because I want to get to the maybe the bigger thing, but like let's also not let these guys get away with their self-importance. This is the company that this guy runs. This is the thing that is so socially valuable that he thinks you should have less money in your pocket, less food in your refrigerator, less opportunity to spend with your family, less free time, more time at work, more time being subservient to somebody like him. What is the social good that he's doing? He's building crap like this, right? unforgettable, beautiful homes for the rich and the powerful. Um, Saint Haven is another project of his. Let's see if I can get that up here. A beautiful private club where you can sculpt your body, right? Another weird fetish of the rich and powerful right now, the health and wellness thing. But don't worry, even though he does want working people to be more subservient, he wants there to be less arrogance in the labor market. They do care about social responsibility, Matt, at the Gurner group. So these liberals getting too mad, they're missing the fact that they have a climate pledge.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Cool.
And most importantly, Matt, they support their people. They support the health and well-being of our people, partners, customers, and suppliers remain as top priorities in our operations. We're also committed to the UNGC, the United Nations Global Compact principles, and measure progress against key areas of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption activities. So I'd be very curious to see how him saying that, people need to be hurting more plays into his commitment to labor. I have a feeling that would probably be a very different answer than what I would give.
It's you talk about we need
the narcissism of these guys.
A problem with arrogance. It's a trip for me. He was 35. He was my age when he did the avocado toast thing. You're gonna sit there, and again, you buy and sell, bro. Well done. Like, could you wire anything in there? What do? You buy and sell. And you're going to tell people who work their entire lives, no, actually, we're another half decade. What's another half decade of your life spent building things that I can buy and sell? That is like literal psychopathy.
See, the thing is that, it's always interesting when you get a camera behind these kind of semi-closed doors environments where somebody feels comfortable to say these kind of things. I'll tell you this right now. If you are a capitalist out there, the best advice you could ever receive would be to be humble, bro. Look, there are entire parts of the American industry right now, like liberals and progressives love like all those progressive capitalists, right? Who are like, oh, I do this and that. It's like, well, no, you're still exploiting your labor, right? Oh, nice. You're giving some money, man. Cool. That's the role you should be playing, though, because the pitchforks are out there. People are suffering. People are hurting. And when they hear somebody like that, especially somebody like this, what is the social value of this guy? Building more toys and special rooms for the rich and powerful. I mean, that is some of the most socially useless crap out there. Oh, you're speculating on real estate, right? Oh, yeah, meaning less and less is affordable to the rest of us, right? You are not just a parasite on society. You're a parasite on all of those people whose labor actually builds up those kind of things. Somebody like that should be on their hands and knees daily, praising the people who have allowed him to fly around the globe, allowed him to be in a position where people listen to him, because it's not off the sweat of his back. It's off the sweat of thousands and thousands and thousands of other people who put him in that position.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this guy, maybe we need to do some follow-up investigations into Tim Gurner.
It's incredible. I don't want to get us into trouble with our corporate masters here at YouTube because all of his films, I'll just put this on as B-roll while we're talking for a second. It's just like the lifestyle luxury of these guys.
Right.
To turn the music off. It's truly disgusting, again, to remember that this is what this guy is saying, man, it's getting harder and harder for me to do this kind of shit, right? Oh, nice helicopters selling these kind of lives. It's getting harder for me to do that. So I think that everyone else needs to suffer dramatically, right? That everyone else needs to be reminded that hey, I'm in charge here, so I can continue doing this kind of shit. So I can continue making a bunch of money selling these kind of insane, absurd bourgeois luxury lifestyles to people, right? I mean, anyone doing it is disgusting, but at least if you were hearing a Kroger CEO go on about it, it's at least there's a grocery store or something at some point, right?
Exactly.
Listen to a guy who literally is just I want to create luxe enclaves for the rich and powerful. And these pesky tradies are getting in trouble now because they're doing things like asking for COVID protections and doing things like asking for higher wages and better working conditions and not accepting it when I tell them to do something, saying maybe, hey, pushing back a little bit, being arrogant. Lord help us all. Working people are arrogant. You're talking like this, doing this kind of shit. Working people are arrogant, right? I mean, it's Someone it'll be interesting to see what kind of PR spin they try to put on this later. But I think
Yeah.
Rebel's in it. And I'm sorry, as somebody who sells this kind of lifestyle brand for a living, this is good marketing for him, right? Right? Because his clientele, they're probably feeling the same thing that, my employees are not being nice enough to me and not thanking me constantly enough.
Right. Okay. So I'm looking. He got like a big loan when he was 19 and bought a gym,
Nice.
then sold that gym to another developer, and now he's been an entrepreneur since. Like, good job, man.
We just
But
got to get into the life.
you know why? The most base thing Obama ever said was, "You didn't build that,"
Yeah.
because when aimed at the right people, that drives them fucking crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. You bought a gym with a loan, and then
Hmm.
you sold it for a gain. That's not anything anybody I think should be impressed by. I'm sorry. I think that's like gambling, except the odds are much better than they are in a fucking casino for capitalists.
Yeah,
If you
because the
can get
game is
money like
rigged.
that, yeah, exactly. Like for great, you sold the property for a rise in value. That's not exactly like winning roulette, right? Like there's things that are going in your fashion. So I'm not impressed. And I think it's absolutely just despicable. I don't know how people get up in the morning saying, "Are you millions of people that actually work and didn't get to put a loan money onto a gym and then sell that
Hmm.
gym? You work, give more of your life to people like me so I can sell your gyms."
So we're going to get to some of the movements that are challenging this, but I do want to note again, like when I see something like this go very viral online, it gives me a lot of hope. I'm glad to see people pissed, and people are mad at the way he's talking about labor, the way that the things that he wants to do. But he's also getting at a really important point here that I think sometimes people miss, is that when it comes to our struggle with capitalists, right? So much of the conversation that we have is about the wage, right? Obviously, a very important thing, right? We want higher wages for workers, of course. But there's one thing that capitalists fear more than, giving a 15, 20% increase in wages, and that's giving working people more power. And that's what he's reacting to here. Remember, he's talking about productivity. He's saying he's not able to exploit his workers at a high enough rate. And one thing that capitalists worry about, and one thing that the people who manage this economy for the capitalist class worry about, is something called full employment. The idea that if you are facing a bad deal, if your employer is abusing you, if you are working in under conditions that are unsustainable for you to be able to live a normal, thriving life, that you have the opportunity to walk away and get a different kind of job. That's what he's reacting to right here. That's what he's so fearful of, is that, what? People are saying no, right? And they want to have this whip of desperation, right? Of the fear of being unemployed, of not having access to food, of not having access to housing, to keep people subservient. And that is why, under capitalism, they will always run from full employment. It's an absurd thing when you think about it, that this system is so messed up that providing jobs for every person who wants and is able to work is bad policy for the capital system, right? What happened to the system of productivity and grit and rise and grind? No, they create unemployment purposefully because it is a tool of discipline against working people. Because if you ever want to stand up and say no to a boss, you'd better damn be very scared of what's going to come if you get fired. And that's the power that this guy is complaining about, feeling that he's losing in Australia right now, right? Is the ability to threaten people's very life if they cross him, if they disobey him. That's the kind of subservience that this system tries to cultivate. And the way that they try to create that system is by creating artificial scarcity, artificial scarcity of wages, of housing, and in this case, and most importantly, of employment. Making sure that your ability to survive, your ability to sustain yourself and your family is tied to your relationship with this kind of exploiter, right? That is the engine of this system.
Yeah, and I mean that's fundamentally why you the goal is to overthrow capitalism, because it can't exist without this. And I think that's kind of like you said, like the different ways this is fielded and interpreted.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's certain people that think like he's like a Shkreli or something, but
Mm-hmm.
like fundamentally he's just elaborating again what the driver of current Fed policy with regards
Mm-hmm.
to interest rates.